All right. Cold open. This one's for my wife, who could probably use a good laugh right now when and if she listens to this. It's also going to be a bit gross. And if you don't want gross right now, I just ate. Maybe you just ate. Just, I don't know, fast forward till you hear the music. You've been warned. So the rant. It's a simple question, really. How in the fuck in the year 2026 have we not figured out the process for giving a stool sample? That's the face I was expecting.
Well, the reason for the face is because I literally just mailed off my colon cancer screening test this morning.
Okay. Okay. Well, I did a sample. So, in addition to everything else that's been going on this past couple of weeks, not going to get into details. My wife is sitting in the hospital right now. She's okay. Not going to, get into it. I've been there already today. I've been there all week. So get off my back. We're recording late and I need to vent. While all of this has been going on, I've been dealing with my own health stuff the past few weeks, and it has involved going to Life Labs and getting a whole bunch of blood work done. I went Monday. Doctor ordered test everything. So I went there and I think I had 6 vials of blood drawn. I did a urine test, and then they send me home with this kit to do a stool sample. And the kit that they give me is like a plastic bag. Okay, that makes sense. And inside it's got a little bottle about the size of your average prescription pill bottle.
Oh, yours was bigger than mine.
Not very big at all. And it's got a line. Like I got to fill this thing halfway up.
Oh, different kind
Okay.
of stool sample.
Different kind of, yeah, different tests, different things. Some of them have liquid, some of them don't. It was an empty bottle. And when you take the lid off, there's basically a spork attached to the top of the lid. And when I say spork, I mean literally it's a spoon about the size of like a Dairy Queen sundae, or like that wooden like sundae stick that you used to get. I think McDonald's had them. But it's glued to the top, and it's spade shaped at the bottom, but then it has notches in it. So it is very much a spork. This totally makes sense so far.
Mm-hmm.
Then I read the instructions. The instructions start off thus. Remove the bottle from the plastic bag. Okay, I'm with you so far. Step 2, wrap your toilet in fucking saran wrap.
Wait, what? What?
So it's important that the sample doesn't touch water, doesn't touch, it's sterile. It's got to be contaminated. Now, there's a 2A and a 2B. 2B is go down into your kitchen and grab yourself some clean bowl or something like that, and then squat over the thing and shit in it.
What? But
2A,
no.
2A is lift the seat of your toilet, wrap it in saran wrap, but leave it loose in the middle so that it sort of dips down and forms basically like a something to catch it.
A pouch.
A pouch, which I get the mechanics of it. Okay. This makes it easy to go. You haven't had kids. So there's a process that is naturally intuitive to me, especially if you've tried using reusable diapers and stuff like that, where you do this thing where you turn it upside down in the toilet, you flush, you sort of wash it off, get rid of most of the debris, the mess, and then you would wash it normally. I imagine if you have a nice hard stool, reason my wife's probably laughing her ass off right now, I don't talk about shit. I try not to fart in a room with people. I'm generally prudish about this stuff, but it has been one of those fucking weeks. So here we are, folks. If you've got a nice hard stool, maybe it just rolls off that saran wrap when you're done, right? You catch this thing, you've got this fucking shit hammock, and then you get your little spork into it. And here's the thing, right? The spork is almost exactly the width of the top of the bottle. So I'm thinking to myself, I need to get this in here and get like a significant amount on it so that I'm not having to do this process 900 times, moving exactly like 1 gram of sample into this bottle. So, you get a little bit on it. It's like, okay, now I got to thread the needle to try and get it in here because I'm trying not to get it all over the top of the bottle, on the outside, especially, because then I got to wash it, but I'm trying not to contaminate it. So it's listed like little tiny spork. I get a little bit at a time, and you're getting it into the bottle, trying to smear it against the sides to get it in. And I got to fill it up to like about the halfway, maybe 2/3 way point where they got a line. But then I've got a shit hammock that I need to do something with. Have you ever tried to get something off of saran wrap once it's on it?
No. I'm pretty sure this would be a really bonus thing for living in the bush, because I would literally just go out my backyard and shit in a pile and scoop it.
That's what I should have done. I live in friggin' middle of town. I should have done it in my front yard.
Or in their parking lot.
Right in the middle of the fucking sidewalk. So there I am in the toilet. I try and flip it over, right? Unwrap it from both sides, get it to fall in without splattering all over the place where I got a big mess to clean up. And it flaps in, and then it's static cling wrap. It sticks to it. I'm sitting there, I'm trying to push it down. At one point, I grabbed the plunger because I don't really want to be getting my hand all in there in the water as I'm trying to knock enough of this stuff off that I can say, okay, now I can at least wrap this up, tie it in a plastic bag, put it in the garbage. It was garbage today, so immediately went out. But the process of getting enough of it off, I'm sitting there, saran wrap, upside down, covered in shit, up and down with the plunger, side by side, looking like witch's cauldron bullshit here. It takes me 5 minutes to get enough of this stuff off that I was comfortable picking it up by the corner, flushing the toilet once, giving it another rinse and jiggle, wrapping it up, tying it in a bag, getting it in the garbage, washing my hands, all of that. It's 2026. What the actual fuck? All right, I'm rolling the intro.
Start the game already!
I have notes.
Okay, well, I'm double fisting today, and I very, very much need to get some of this into me.
All
so
right,
let's start with that.
Okay, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking, this one's for you, Mott's Clamato Pickled Bean.
Ah, gross.
Now, it says something that the face you just made was worse than the face you made when I was talking about stool samples as like a cold opener.
Hey, man, everybody poops. I'm just disappointed. There's two things that I'm disappointed with about your shitty opening. The first one is, why in the hell did you not call it a poop scoop? And the second thing is that when you're trying to actually get rid of the poop off of the saran wrap, you should have just used your poop knife.
Calling it a scoop would have implied certain dimensions and physical qualities to the side of this shit spork, okay? Not the case. Second drink is just going to be a Prince Eddie's Blonde Ale. What do you got on the go?
Well, I have a giant beer that is 8%, so I'm only having one of them. It is a Wellington Imperial Stout Tall Boy from Guelph, Ontario. Drinking Canadian tonight. Trying very hard to actually buy Canadian in everything I do. It's not always possible, but making an effort.
Yeah, I made a trip to the LCBO on my way home, and the Clamato was the only thing that wasn't Ontario craft that I bought.
Yeah. Listen, the thing about the Mott's Clamato pickled bean that makes me disgusted is actually the tomato part of it. I hate tomato juice.
Yeah.
Tomatoes should be eaten in chunks on a sandwich with toast and bacon. Or in spaghetti.
It's not quite the pickle stuff that we brought out at your D&D weekend last year, but it definitely harkens back.
Yeah, pickles are nice, but pickles should be pickles. They should not be liquefied, bubblified, and alcoholized.
Yeah.
They should be deep fried.
In most cases, I would agree with you. I happen to really like the pickled flavored drinks for some reason. I'm not a big pickle guy. Like, I don't put pickles on a burger. I'll order it without, because I find that, while I like a pickle, tends to mask the flavor of whatever it is you're putting it on, which is why I don't do that. I like a burger to taste like meat. So I don't put steak sauce on a steak. I like a steak to taste like steak. But I also, especially when I was a kid, had a thing for like drinking the pickle juice out of a jar of pickles.
Pickle juice is really good on French fries.
Yeah. So pickled flavored drinks feels like a natural thing to me, and I don't love them all. That stuff that we had that weekend last year was not good.
No, it was not.
But the pickled bean Mott's Clamato and a bunch of other pickled flavored drinks that I've had, super tasty. I like it.
Wow. Not going to yuck your yum, even though your yum is, in this case, yuck.
So it's not the clam milk, to harken back to episode, I don't know, 2, that's your problem. It's the tomato.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not particularly fond of drinking clam juice either, but it's the tomato that I really don't like. There was an interesting thing that you said, because as I said, I sent off my colon cancer screening thing. I had to send off 2 of them. This is funny. They sent me one, because when you turn 50 in Canada, they just send you one, right? Here, take a scoop of your poop and send it to us in this bottle, and we'll see if you have ass cancer.
Mm-hmm.
But I put it off for so long thinking, oh no, what if I have ass cancer? That by the time they got it, they couldn't test it. They sent me another one along with a letter that says, we cannot test this because the test request has actually expired.
That's funny. And it's funny process, right? Because what you say, you turn 50, you basically get sent, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not quite 50 yet. I went to the doctor and I said, I want to test for ass cancer. I didn't use those words, but that's what we're talking about, right? And roadblocks.
What?
I have had some symptoms. There's a reason why I've been doing all of this test. I was having some abdominal problems. To me, it felt like, I guess we're not done with the gross. Welcome to Nerding Under the Influence. I'm sure this is why you all listen.
Yeah, come on. Listen to 2 hours of us talking about our asses and what's wrong with them.
So I had some sharp pain stuff going on. This is now like 6 weeks ago, that lessened after about a week, but never fully went away. And it's been flaring up, sort of like exactly half, like the belt line, halfway between navel and junk.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, for anybody that knows anything about medicine, I guess that's general region of like sigmoid junction. And of course, you've got prostate and bladder and a whole bunch of other stuff in that area. I have a history of cancer in my family, took the lives of both my parents, but I don't have a history specifically of colorectal cancer. And I know that not all cancers are related, and some of them have more commonly like a genetic inheritance thing. I get it. I had some pain, and then afterwards, when the pain kind of just turned into this dull sensation, it just felt like I had something in there. And I can assure you, I didn't. Right? I'm not against putting things in there. It's been a long time, but I'm familiar enough with the sensation. I mean, I poop too, right? Like, that it felt like there was something in there. And I also have this weird sensation, if you could imagine an elastic band sort of connecting outer asshole with whatever this is on the inside. When I would get up out of chairs, walk downstairs, get up and out of bed, anything where I'm significantly changing my posture, it felt like I had that elastic band tugging, pulling my ass in, like pucker butt, like a mechanical thing. So I'm immediately thinking, okay, well, I'm at the age where I should probably start getting tested. I'm overweight, cancer on both sides of my family, high risk. I imagine if I go in and say, these are the symptoms that I'm having, I'm worried about maybe a polyp. It feels like what I imagine a polyp would feel like. I am not a doctor. I'm not going to diagnose myself. Let's skip doing all the fit tests and stuff like that, right, that you did. Let's go right to colonoscopy. I don't mind, like, let's be sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't have a family doctor, which is part of the problem, so I'm going to a
Oh,
clinic.
yeah. That is a problem.
The doctor at the clinic was great, but also a doctor. And, and I'm not saying she was wrong at all. I find the contrast funny where it's like, you're 50, you can't get a colonoscopy fast enough. They're basically driving colonoscopy trucks up to your front door, right? Like you're 50 years old in one day and it's like, here we are. Would you like to step right in, please?
We want to look in your bum.
I'm 46 and I'm out there saying, hey, look at me. I'm high risk. Also, I've had symptoms. Let's get this done. Let's be sure. And she's like, well, the symptoms that you're describing don't quite match up to what we expect based on location, blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. And she wasn't exactly like blowing me off because she said, okay, let's do all of these other tests instead. That involved the blood work. I have a history of kidney stones. It's possible that something related to that, getting into the bladder. It didn't feel that way to me, but again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not really diagnosing myself. I just immediately jumped to, wow, this feels like probably let's cross the worst thing off the list first, right? Let's not fuck around. And then if it isn't that, great, let's celebrate. I'll have some pickle Caesar, and then we can start pissing around with ultrasounds on my kidneys and bladder and ureters and all of that stuff and blood work and tests for IBS and celiacs and all of that shit. Well, we're doing it the other way around, I guess, which is fine. I'm still getting care. It's just funny. That's all. That here I am saying, please check my ass, massage my prostate, do what you got to do. Let's eliminate the C word. And then if I'm still need additional care and additional testing, we can do that. And they're like, you're not 50. No, you're too young.
Yeah, that is such a bizarre thing with our medical system because honestly, like there's a lot of contrast that you hear about the Canadian medical system versus the US medical system, and there's fair criticisms of both.
Sure.
Right. And there are things about both systems that work really well. If you live in the US and you have lots of money, your medical system is awesome. If you live in Canada, the medical system is free, but they are very jealous of spending money. So you end up with, well, this test may not be necessary, so we're not going to do it. And that is a problem. Speaking of sticking things into other things, so I have done this twice now, and you mentioned about you sort of scooping the poop from the thing into the one that they send you is actually it's kind of like a plastic Q-tip. It's similar kind of arrangement, except instead of being a spork, it's like a Q-tip that's on the lid. But instead of giving you like a pill container that you can put this Q-tip into, they give you the Q-tip that is attached to the lid. You pull it out, and the hole that you have to put the Q-tip back in is exactly the same size as the end of the Q-tip. So you basically swirl the thing around in your poop and then put it back through this tiny little hole, trying not to get poop on the side. And it's like it's literally like you're smearing poop all down the sides of the container the whole time you're doing it. Yeah, you wonder sometimes if the people who design these things have ever actually tried to use them.
Yeah, I don't know. And not the way they are intended. I'm sure somebody was there with, a nice bowl of chocolate pudding or something like that. And they're like, oh, this is wonderful. I don't have a problem getting this up nice and close to my face so that I can see the hole. And, here I am holding this thing out at arm's length, basically trying not to vomit. I was smart. I took Vicks on 2 wadded up pieces of toilet paper, and then I crammed them up into my nose.
Well, see, I'm lucky in that sense because my shit doesn't stink.
Everybody's shit stinks.
Oh, my shit stinks to you, but honestly, to me, I don't smell it. Like I can tell that yes, there's shit, but it doesn't bother me that way. Dog shit does that to me.
Does it to me too. There's a big difference though, right? Between I went to the bathroom, right? Toilets are miracles of modern innovation and not that modern. But you don't realize just how effective this shit dropping right into a pool of water and immediately being submerged and covered is, right?
Oh, it's
Like
good. Yeah.
the difference in smell between shitting in the toilet and shitting on a saran wrap hammock is insane.
To give you a little bit of a preview, the process that they give you, because they give you a sheet with like pictures on it, no words. You're supposed to pee, then flush, and then you have a piece of, it's almost like toilet paper, but it's a little stiffer that you sit on top of the water, and then you poop on top of that. So all of your poop is above the water.
I didn't get that at all. It was
No,
literally go
and
into
you
your
wouldn't.
kitchen and grab some saran wrap.
Yeah. Well,
Literally
because
use the words saran wrap, plastic wrap,
yes.
brackets, saran wrap.
Yeah. So, and I think probably the reason for that is because they need your sample to be dry, whereas my sample needs, first of all, is a much smaller sample. Yeah. And also a small amount of it being in water is not going to be a big deal.
This is the last thing that I want to say about this, and we can move on to actual
no.
nerdy conversation.
No. This is the whole episode.
Right.
The whole, it's all shit talk.
All right. Well, while you're taking that drink, I just want to make it known that my sample was not dry.
Oh. This is our shittiest episode ever.
Soft serve ice cream, my friend.
Did you get the little badoop on top?
It was basically poop emoji.
Nice. All
right. What do you want to talk about besides shit?
You know what? I don't know. The funny thing is that we always start with nothing the day before. And then by the time that we get to recording, there's 52 things in the, hey, we should talk about this. My suggestion is we avoid all serious things other than the trolley comment that I put at the top, which you need to read, and then we can just stop thinking about that. So here's an interesting idea, I think, and I think that it is more useful as an idea than it is as a thing to actually do. But the idea of doing a review of video games that we have never played. And I would like to start with Arc Raiders, which I have never played, and I have no desire to play. It looks neat. I enjoy watching Co-Carnage play it. I have no desire to play it myself because it is wholly PvP, and I would not enjoy that.
All right. So, well, let's roll the stinger then. We have more video game stuff to talk about. We might as well make it a thing.
I used to be an adventurer like you.
Stay a while and listen.
I yearn for a return of Pac-Man. Do you remember when video games were just games and you did a thing and there was clear goals and a clear thing and it was just a simple game that you played?
Yeah.
They were all the same, but that's fine.
I often tell myself that I yearn for simpler times. And to be clear, I've been talking about picking up for a while, like a handheld retro sort of console to do some emulation stuff on, something to get me up and away from the desk or away from the couch. I can maybe, wifey's always on her phone in bed playing games while we're watching TV or talking or doing anything there. So, instead, if I don't feel like reading a book or something in bed, I can bust it out for 20 minutes, go to sleep after kind of thing, right? And my favorite era of video games was the late Super Nintendo and sort of early PlayStation 1 era of especially JRPGs. And those are the kind of things that emulators just eat them for lunch, right? Like they play great. So I've been thinking about going back and playing a lot of that because I've been looking at the gaming sort of calendar of releases coming up, and there really isn't a lot that'll realistically be out this year that I'm looking forward to. So I've been thinking about, well, what do I want to play? And I don't know, go back. Having said that, your comment about playing Pac-Man is one of those things where it's just like, I remember that. It was so good. And then you load up the game now and you play it and you feel completely differently about it than you ever did back then. Your standards have changed, your attention span, your need for stimulus has changed. You've been conditioned by 30 plus years of other things. And sometimes it's hard. I didn't overplay it because at one point in time we were going to do a stream of it, but I went back and tested Jumpman Jr. And that's a game we've talked about in other episodes. It's only one step above Pac-Man, right? Like if you draw a line between Pac-Man and Donkey Kong, Jumpman Jr. probably sits somewhere in the middle. Like in terms of
fair.
the technology, what the games were capable of at the time. Like it released on, the Atari ST, and I think there was a Coleco port of it. Definitely Commodore 64 is the one that I played the hell out of. It even had an arcade cabinet.
Really?
I believe so, yeah. Developed by Epic's Games, not Epic. It's the whole thing. We talked about it in an earlier episode. Listen to that. The point is that I went back and played it thinking this is going to be fucking awesome. And it was not 5 minutes in where it was like, I'm bored. I'm frustrated. Why am I not loving this? I want to love this experience. I loved it before. It was fucking amazing. And no amount of like putting the nostalgia goggles on real time turned that into a super enjoyable moment. It's like playing Lee Trevino's Fighting Golf. That was an exercise of frustration for you just trying to get into it.
Yeah, partially because there's no nostalgia goggles for me there. I think at least part of the problem that we have with going back to things like that is it's not actually the game itself that we remember fondly. Like
Mhm.
Pac-Man for me, it's not about, the little yellow thing, or Miss Pac-Man was actually the game that I enjoyed the most. It's not about the little thing going around and eating the pills and chasing the ghosts. It's about being in a place with other people at the cabinet with people watching, waiting for their turn, and then it's their turn and you watch them play. So it's more of a social dynamic. It's more of a memory of the time and the place than it is the actual game itself.
Yeah, but often when you're talking about old retro games, you're not thinking about that sort of attached context, right? You're just thinking about this was my favorite game growing up. And unless you put an effort into at least paying lip service to the rest of that context, when you go back and play it, you end up disappointed. I don't know if it taints sort of the past experience sometimes, but it's sort of a risk that I've struggled with in the past. When I go back and play old games, often I just play the ones that I know are bangers. Like I play Chrono Trigger probably once every couple of years, right? Just because it's hard to be disappointed by that kind of game if you're into that kind of game. It's still mechanically complex enough to tickle all the things that you want tickled inside the noggin. It's not doesn't have that sort of like quarter eating difficulty that was built into a lot of games of the era that you kind of forget about.
Oh my God, Dragon's Lair. I bring the every time that you bring up the quarter eating difficulty thing, it brings Dragon's Lair back into my brain. Because I so wanted to play that game and be good at it and see it. And there was always, it's like the second or third scene where you have to choose between left and right. And it's literally like there's no clues,
Yep.
but there's fire on one side and you have to time it to go through the fire in between the blasts or whatever. I always went the other way and you always just fall off the waterfall and die.
Yeah. And like barely a video game.
Oh, not even real. It's
You know,
intended to be a cartoon or a video movie type thing.
but it is quick time events without showing you which button to push, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. It may as well just be, press X to watch the next scene.
Yeah.
Give me a game, some kind of a game, any kind of a game.
So you mentioned Arc Raiders specifically.
I did, just because to me it has all of the for any of you who play Arc Raiders and you enjoy it, great, cool, go on, enjoy it. I don't know very much about the game at all, other than it is at very least voluntary PvP. which does not tickle my fancy in the slightest, and it brings out the very worst in people.
Hmm.
And I just, to me, it's like, oh, it's confrontation, the game. This will be lots of fun for people who enjoy confrontation, and absolute agony for me.
Yeah.
So no, thank you.
I have not engaged with any of the modern like hero shooters, extraction shooters, like everything from Rainbow Six Siege to like even the newer Counter Strike and Apex Legends and like all of that shit, right? I don't care. I don't want to play them. And this is a guy that played a hell of a lot of like Unreal Tournament and Quake 3 Arena back in the day. Like it isn't the shooter that's the problem, it's the people. And that probably says more about me than it says about the games.
Part of the problem, especially for me as well, is they're not intended to be. Funny thing, I actually looked in a little bit more to Skinner boxes, which we've talked about before, and they very much are designed in that way. Here is a random reward so that you keep playing. I can't imagine that Arc Raiders doesn't somehow have advertising baked into it somewhere, because everything these days seems to.
Yeah, probably.
Here's the EA Activision rifle skin. You only have to pay $3 or play 32 hours and hope that it drops from a loot crate.
Yeah.
Lasai. Having said that, there's a new thing coming out from Daybreak Games called EverQuest Legends, which I signed up for the closed beta on day one. Heard anything yet? I don't know when or if they're releasing closed beta. Crossing my fingers and kind of hoping, because it looks more like a small group player type experience than the giant raider thing that EverQuest Classic was.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of drama around it as well, because Daybreak Games basically shut down a fan site or a fan server that was exactly this kind of gameplay. And they did it legitimately, right? Because there's Project 99 is still up, still running, and Daybreak Games has basically said, yeah, that's fine. You're not making money from it, and you did all the work yourself. You're using some of our assets. That's fine. We give you permission to do that. But this they were making money on this, so Daybreak shut them down, and now are releasing their own server that does more or less the same thing.
Yeah. Hey, it's a common thing. I mean, we ran into this a lot with the World of Warcraft private server sort of thing, which was hugely popular and a lot of them made quite a bit of money. And, that's why you eventually get things like the WoW Classic releases. I'm sure, and I wasn't part of the communities back then, but if you look at sort of the motivation for doing like the old EQ progression servers, right? Like I assume there were people that were running private servers of older expansion packs and they were wanting to sort of tap into that because there were probably
Yes.
more people doing that than were actually paying to play the current sort of retail game experience at the time.
Quite a few more. If you look at, I think they don't release their numbers, but I think if you look at the population across the modern servers on the most recent expansion versus people who are playing whatever this year's progression server are, and I know that when they release a new progression server, the old progression server's population just drops off a cliff. Because everybody enjoys starting over from scratch. Once you get to a certain point in the game, it's difficult to onboard because everyone else is like level 85 and it's going to take you 6 months to get there and you need a group to do it. But you can't get a group because everybody's 85,
Yeah.
right? So there's no point. Everybody starts over again at the ground floor and you all work on it together.
Yeah, and I imagine, it isn't even about onboarding a lot of new players in those instances. It's oh, I really enjoy this, but life happened and I couldn't play for 6 weeks. And now I'm just so far behind that I can't catch up. I guess I will wait until enough people sort of get to that point where everybody's screaming for a reset and, they'll roll fresh and you're good to go.
Yeah, which is a sort of a funny thing about that. Like the idea of being behind is so bonkers because there's no winning. There's no people turn it into this competition of, well, you have to have the latest and greatest gear, and you have to have all the stuff, and you have to do the thing, and you have to be super extra elite. And time again, it's been proven that you don't. Right? Like we used to go on raids and you'd have 72 people and everybody's got the very greatest gear. And it's like, oh, we won. That's great. And then another group comes along and does it with 20 people who are basically naked.
Yeah.
Right? So you can bring along people who don't have the latest and greatest and aren't the top level. You can do that, but people don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I look at it a little bit differently. And I can't speak to EverQuest specifically because I know that like you didn't have locked in raid sizes for a lot of it. So you could throw 72 people at a particular thing. I can speak to it kind of from the World of Warcraft angle, and I get it, right? Like, especially if what you do is progression as a group. Yes, there are the people that can do it 20 man naked. I would sort of liken them to the people that sort of do speedrunning challenges in regular games, right? Like their victory condition, what they do for fun is different than what most normal people do. And that's totally fine and totally cool. But where you have to be careful is the idea of somebody being behind. Does it impact the fun and experience for the other people if the other people have to change the way they play, have to take it more seriously to essentially carry that person because they're behind the progression curve relative to not only where you are as players, but also the content that you're trying to progress through right now?
Yes, I agree. The on progression servers anyway, the limit is I think 72 for the first 3 or 4 expansions, and then it drops to 54. I think it eventually drops to 40. But I might be crossing over my memories with WoW. But the thing is that like if you can do a raid that you can take 54 people to with 20, I'm not suggesting that everyone should do that in order to bring along the people who aren't caught up.
No, I get it.
But if you can do it with 53 and there's that one person who's slightly behind, the culture says we're not bringing you because you're too far behind. But the reality is that if you want to have 54 people, like I've seen groups do it. We'll do it with 53 so we don't have to bring the scrub.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you never bring the scrub stays a scrub forever. You need
Yeah.
to actually help them develop.
And there's the other aspect, and again, you know, it's a lot of it is sort of the reward mechanics in games and stuff like that. Like, I assume you played like when you were doing rating and stuff with like DKP systems and stuff like that for sort of figuring out who gets what loot.
Yes.
And there's that sort of chicken egg paradox situation that you run into when you're bringing somebody in like that, where it's like, oh, he's behind, he doesn't have the gear that we have that we worked for, now he's here, are you going to give them the gear or are you going to give me the gear?
Yeah, see, and that's the problem too, is like, well, hey, I've already got most of the gear, so I need the rest of the gear, and this guy who has no gear, we don't give him any gear, right? And that's human nature, right? I
Yeah.
have some, I want more. He doesn't have any, he doesn't deserve any.
Well, and it's that weird thing, right, where like actually giving that guy the gear if he's going to be a regular part of your progression is probably the most efficient way to increase your overall group effectiveness, but he didn't put the work in.
Right.
You know, here I am, I'm running, you know, dungeons or, you know, whatever it is in whatever game that you're playing. I'm doing heroics like 6 nights a week. And, you know, my gear score is at this, which is what we set as the target so that we could do this raid and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Man, I was so over that shit in like 2014. I stepped back to like running a casual guild that just did dungeons and WoW because I couldn't deal with 40-man groups. I couldn't then deal with the 15-man groups. And then I got the point to doing 5-man dungeons was just painful. So much so that I have PSD. We were talking about sort of following up our satisfactory multiplayer experience of you and I by picking another game that we could play multiplayer. And then you said, and we could get other people involved. And immediately, yeah, immediately internally, my reaction was not because I think it's a bad idea, but because I have trauma was, no, that's a fucking nightmare. Why would we want to do that?
I would really like to find a group of people who is willing to do things on an actual casual basis,
Yeah.
right? Do a game where we run it like a commune.
Mm-hmm.
Who has stuff? Okay. Who doesn't have stuff? Okay, those of us who have stuff are going to give some stuff to the people who don't have stuff so that we can all play together. Because the point is to play together.
Yeah.
But it's hard to find people like that. And even having said that myself, right, I do still have the knee-jerk reaction of, well, I worked for my stuff, right? Even though, well, I worked for this stuff specifically so that I could share it with people who can't get the stuff that I've got.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I get it. I'm with you. I mean, I've had those feelings too, for the most part. Like I've tried to create that social experience, right? Like playing video games more like you would play a board game or something, or a party game at game night. Not
Yeah.
D&D night, not, but like game night where you'd have a bunch of people over and you'd play Settlers of Catan or something like that, right? The game is secondary at that point. It's an excuse to hang out. It's kind of like us recording this podcast.
Yeah.
If we were to do it with 5 people instead of 3 or 2 or 1 or whatever. We
Mhm.
generally don't record this with 1. I might have done some pre-drinking.
All right, man. As long as you don't have to drive anywhere tonight, you're fine.
I do not. I got that all taken care of beforehand. So I get it. And I have tried to create that even amongst our circle, right? I've tried so hard to be like, let's do this virtual LAN party kind of thing. Or tell you what, I'll set up this like private WoW server that's only just us. We can get together once a week, once a month or whatever, run some dungeons, and then nobody's under any pressure to ever play the game again until we're ready to do it the next week. Well, then it turns into trend, like schedule a D&D game, right? Well, I'm only
Oh,
available
God.
Thursday nights from 7:30 to 8:25, and then I need to take an hour break. And adulting's hard. I get it. This ruins all of our fun as nerds pretty much all the time.
Every time.
That aspect is like, it doesn't exist outside of the experience of playing those games, and it is always that person that then comes naked, didn't do any prep, didn't put any work in. They're also always the person that is 15 minutes late, can't make it this week. Waiting for my dogs to finish blowing up. I think we're good. The frustrations build on each other. And then you get to a point where you're like me, where it's like, you know what? Maybe I should just play Chrono Trigger for the 73rd time. That sounds wonderful.
It's a fair point. It's a large part of the reason I haven't actually logged into your Satisfactory server in a while. And not because I didn't enjoy it or because I wasn't having fun, but just because I went at it a little too hard and burnt out. So I'm back at playing The Long Dark, which is basically a walking in the snow simulator.
Yeah. How's that going?
I am on, I think, 200 days on my current playthrough. I'm literally just waiting to get the 500 days survived so that I can start a new game on a harder difficulty. And I think I'm just about at the point where I want to do a custom difficulty because there's just a little bit too much wildlife. They've made sort of a survival experience into a game. So everywhere that you want to travel from to, there's wolves in between, which you then either have to sort of go around to avoid or find a way to scare them, or you have to shoot them. And that's fine as a challenge, but when you think about, I just want to treat this as a survival challenge, I would much rather treat it as the survival as the difficulty to survive being about the weather and finding food as opposed to avoiding packs of wolves. So I think my next playthrough, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn down all of the wildlife so that it's harder to find deer and rabbits and ptarmigans. But also you're not, every time you turn a corner, bumping into a wolf or a bear. But
Yeah, I get
I'm
that.
enjoying it. because it's just very now I have actually loaded up a spreadsheet because I'm now having to keep track of because there's certain tools that are reasonably rare, but they're heavy, so you don't carry them from place to place, and sometimes you need them at a different place. So I need to remember where did I leave it, and especially if I jump out and go play Satisfactory for a couple of weeks, I come back to the Long Dark and go, where did I leave my hammer? Where's the woodworking tools? Right? Because I'm building furniture now. Like that's the point of preparation that I'm at now is that I'm building custom furniture just because I need to do something to fill time. I have like at my main base, I think I have like 300 kilograms of raw meat sitting in the snow. So I'm not going to run out of food anytime soon. Yeah. It's a funny kind of a game because it's similar to Satisfactory in that there is no real need to do specific things other than to continue, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There are a few quests and missions and things that you can do, and they're fun and interesting. Some of them are frustrating in the extreme if you don't look them up. The one I'm doing right now is finding a series of prepper caches. There's no one else in the game. Like you don't have any NPCs or anyone else that you interact with the exception of a guy who is out on the ocean on a boat, and you contact him by radio at intermittent times when there's this electromagnetic phenomenon called an aurora, which is basically the northern lights. Northern lights come, things power up sort of erratically, and you can talk to this guy on the radio and say, hey, I'll trade you, 35 rabbit skins for a bag of flour or whatever. After you build up a little bit of trust, he asks you to find evidence of his brother. And he says he used to run with this bunch of preppers, and I think they probably have caches all over the island. See if you can find any sign of him. There are 9 places on the island where there are prepper caches. 6 of them, at random, different 6 every game, will be abandoned. 3 of them will have stuff in them. 1 of them has a loose brick in it somewhere, behind which you will find a letter from his brother. So he doesn't tell you where you're supposed to look, where they might be, what they might look like. It's, congratulations, go walk the entire world until you find a hatch in the snow, climb down it, see if this is the one that has the loose brick. Also, he doesn't tell you that it's behind a loose brick. It's literally just search the thing and bring me a sign of him.
Mm.
So it's one of the few things that I think they balanced a little bit on the more difficult side than it needs to be. Everything else about the game is like, yeah, this is just about right, or it has a sort of a lever that you can tweak and fiddle with, or a knob you can turn. This is just, why would you do this?
Yeah.
Give me a clue. Give me a breadcrumb.
Do you have any other games you're kind of looking forward to coming out in the next little while?
I don't think so. I did have a little bit of a peek at Valheim, and I think I would be interested in it, but I'm not interested in playing it as a solo game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the thing, like the survival elements of it, that'd be interesting to me. The boss fights, not really my bag.
Yeah, I didn't spend a lot of time playing it. One of my coworkers from a couple of years ago, Paul, was running a server and he got me into it. The game that I think I'd gotten a Humble Bundle like 300 years ago. I didn't bounce off of it the way I've bounced off of some stuff. I'm like, I get why people like it, but for me, it was almost the opposite, right? It was these guys are going at a pace and they're really, they wanted to play it multiplayer, but like multiplayer on their own terms. They're like, yeah, it'll be fine as a new person. That's cool. And, it was kind of for about 3 days. And then it's like, oh, I'm in this biome all alone playing it as a single player game. I've put the most time into it in this period of time, but because they've all played it 17 times, they're basically speed running it.
Yeah.
Which is fine, right? But it doesn't always work when you try to bring somebody new and you're going to play that way. And like they were trying to be helpful and stuff, but in a way that was just like, oh, so what you want me to do is follow you around, stand here, watch you do stuff, and then like go pick up the loot or something. Yeah, that's not really sort of it for me. But the base building was interesting. The sort of survival mechanics were kind of interesting. It's one of those games where you kind of get to the point where you're like building furniture and you got all these different stations that do different things, and there's sort of a progression that gets tied to the biomes that you're in, which is where those sort of boss mechanics kind of come in. They're sort of key to unlocking like the next area, the next phase kind of thing. I think I did 2 bosses, sort of got fiddling around in 2 or 3 biomes. It is one of those games where if you run to the wrong place, you die, right? Like, ooh, I'm fighting all these like skeletons and things, and I've progressed enough that they're almost relatively easy. Oh, what's across that river? And then like just a wolf, a little random wolf walks up and just destroys me. And then I'm trying to corpse run to get my gear and stuff that's left on there. And it just turns into a nightmare because now this wolf from the other biome is following me back into this biome across the river. And like, it wasn't that it wasn't fun. It's just one of those style of games where it does have that sort of like difficulty curve that is difficult to like get around, right? Like, you're not supposed to be here right now. Progress. And there's certainly satisfaction in being like, oh, this wolf kicked my ass, and now I'm strong enough to go kick his ass. You know,
Yeah.
it's just funny because it is, oh, well, I progressed to the point where I just defeated this like great, you know, moose god or whatever the fuck he was, right? Back here. And now random hungry wolf over here is just face rolling me.
That's the problem with all kinds of RPGs like that that have that kind of progression. EverQuest was like that because you go through sort of EverQuest Classic and the end of EverQuest Classic, and most people didn't get there until 2 or 3 expansions later when it first came out, but now you do it sort of in era. You go and you fight the avatars of the gods, right? And you punch them and you take their stuff, and then the next expansion comes out, and there's a few low-level zones in there, but then like 2 or 3 expansions, like you have fought the literal gods of this world. And now you go into this new zone and
And you
Puppy
gotta,
Dog 01 just absolutely wrecks your shit.
yeah, you got to punch rats for another 10 levels. And then, yeah, well, I'll add that to you.
Yeah, the whole game is punching rats. The rats just get bigger.
And then sometimes get smaller, but much stronger.
Yeah, it's just a bigger pool of numbers.
Yeah, as I mentioned, there's not much coming out, I think, this year that I'm looking forward to. The possible exception would be Subnautica 2. It's had a weird sort of development process. The original developers of Subnautica were acquired essentially by a publisher slash venture capital slash whatever, right? And the success of the first game put them in a situation because it was unexpected success. Now, the first Subnautica game basically created the current sort of early access model for releasing a game in a mostly playable state, getting orders, getting feedback, getting sales while you finish and polish the game. And Satisfactory is another great example of a game that has sort of followed that model, where it's like the initial release is you know, it's a playable game in and of its own right. It might, you know, only have like half the biomes open or something like that, but it, you know, was solid. And the mechanics will change as you go through the early access cycles, and they'll sort of react to the people playing the game and ultimately release the 1.0 version where everybody starts kind of fresh and they get the complete experience with the story and, you know, all of that stuff. First game basically developed as a small indie sort of studio, did gangbusters, made a lot of money, attracted people that wanted to invest in them, and of course, profit from the second game. And the creators, 3 guys, I believe. I mean, they had a team, a development team, but the 3 sort of senior level guys negotiated as part of that acquisition and stuff that like they would have a very large bonus, like multi-millions, of probably like $250 million or something like that, attached to a sales target for the second game that was date specific. So they
Oh.
bust their ass to get an early access ready, and then the company that sort of acquired them, Crafton, decided, well, how can we get around paying these people $250 million? Originally, they tried to squash the early access, saying that the game wasn't in a good enough condition. And I might not be getting the details 100% right. If you're interested, anybody listening, I suggest you sort of read up on it because it is a bonkers story. They tried to just sort of delay the early access so that they would miss the dates to get any sales so that it would be ineligible for that big bonus. Big uproar around that, not just from the three guys that would have got the primary bonus and disseminated a bunch of that to the studio, but from like developers as well that are like, actually, no, like we're pretty close to the finish line here. We probably could have released it as early access a year ago based on what we did with the first game. And then when that didn't exactly fly, the CEO of Crafton, or one of the executives, literally got caught using and has now gone to court and lost Chat GPT to form a plan of how to essentially fire these guys to get out from having to pay this big bonus.
Oh my God.
And it very much didn't work. They're now forced into a situation where they had to give one of those senior guys his position back, which of course is super awkward. Like the court can order that, right? Like this guy you dismissed, you have to give him his job back. After like poisoning and that whole relationship, like how does that work? And now
Not
he's
well.
there and they're going to try and put out an early access game. So it's going to be hard to overlook all of that. And I really don't want to give Crafton, the company that's pulling this shit, my money. But I loved being an early access game, like, yeah, maybe. I loved the first game so much, both in early access and after its release. It is the one survival game I've actually really enjoyed that isn't, like I play games like Minecraft Survival and stuff like that. And I enjoy it for other reasons. It's not so much about the survival. It is the one survival exploration game that just hit me the right way. And I've talked about it a lot. So I've been looking forward to a true sequel. I was a little bit disappointed in the sort of expansion-y Beyond Zero, Below Zero game. It was decent, but I've been waiting for a true sequel for a decade now, maybe a little bit more. And it's on the horizon, and it just has that ick factor attached to it, which is going to dampen my experience, I think. But I think I'm probably going to buy it and play it anyway. It isn't the developer's fault that, this Crafton executive is absolute piece of work. And yes, that person is going to benefit from my purchase, but presumably if everybody didn't purchase this game, a lot of developers and artists and stuff are going to lose their job pretty early in that development cycle. So it is what it is.
It is unfortunately capitalism. I would very much like to stop participating in it, but I don't know that that's really an option.
Yeah. Beyond that, there's some stuff that's sort of on the distant horizon I'm looking forward to. Exodus. It's a game that I'm being very careful not to get too hyped up about it. It's got a lot of old BioWare people involved. It's sort of shaping up to be like the modern spiritual successor to Mass Effect. Some of the things in the trailers that have come out so far have really, really looked good. And some of the things, some of the story stuff that like I'm sort of intuiting and inferring from it. It's like, yeah, maybe, but I'm looking forward to that game still. And I mean, that probably is like a 2027 release. The Witcher 4 is in development, and I'm super stoked about that. I would be surprised if that's released in 2028 even. the new Divinity game that they did that trailer for. I mean, it's going to be a million years off too, but after Larian doing Baldur's Gate 3, I will line up to play whatever it is that they do next. And that trailer, did you see the trailer to
I have
Divinity?
not.
Watch it.
This is a funny thing because you're talking about things that are coming out. I'm looking at games in the Steam library that are like 3 to 4 years old. Right. I'm sort of on the track to play some video games from 2020.
Well, and I'm on the track to play video games from 1995. So, but these are things that I'm looking forward to in the future. Do you remember how the Baldur's Gate 3 trailer that had the bear sex in it got a whole bunch of like not controversy but buzz, right? Like, oh my God.
I remember the buzz. I don't think I ever actually saw it. I saw one thing that I think Chris shared with me about Baldur's Gate 3, and it was the sort of, it was the meetup at the beginning of the game where you meet, oh, what's his face? The vampire.
Asterion.
It was that sort of scene. And other than that, I didn't really see anything on the run up to Baldur's Gate 3 until someone said, hey, check out this game. It looks fun to play. And I thought, okay, I like Dungeons and Dragons. I'll try it.
Yeah. Well, they got a lot of buzz. They did their thing where it's like, we know we got a great game here, so let's not shock people. But it was at one of the, I don't know if it was at a Game Awards or if it was at like a trade show kind of thing where they're just like, let's put this out here. People are going to talk about it. And it was basically a scene of like, what happens if you romance shit, I'm drawing a blank on the name now. The druid. Halsin, yes. And, it's basically, I mean, it might appeal to the furries. It was one of those things where it was designed to get people talking. The trailer for Divinity, they decided, let's turn that up to 11, shall we?
Oh, my.
Yeah.
My.
It is dark, probably not reflective at all of what the game is going to be. And to be clear, like it's a Divinity, not a Divinity Original Sin game. So I don't think it is going to be the Baldur's Gate 3 style sort of RPG. It's going to be more of an action RPG, which is fine. I watched the trailer and I'm like, oh, I'm in. Like I was already in. I am so in right now.
I have never played any of the Divinity games. Are they good?
I played one of the old ones and I was like, yeah, it was not too bad. I got into Divinity Original Sin 2. I bounced off of the first one. It was decent enough. And I think now having played Baldur's Gate 3 and really been brought into a lot of it for me was like controls and stuff, right? Like even when we started Baldur's Gate 3, I was like, man, this camera system and control system is just turning me off. And I wish I could, having played MMOs for 20 years and, you get used to a certain way of doing things, like this is fucking horrible. And I never totally got over it with Baldur's Gate 3, but at the same time, it's like this game is so fucking good that if this is my only complaint.
If they gave us a patch where we could look up. Yeah. Because there's that one scene where you get to the tavern or whatever it is. Oh my God, look at the dragon. What dragon? I can't see the dragon. The dragon's in the sky. Let me look up. Or force me to look up when that happens. Like, let me see the dragon.
Yeah. Like a proper mouse. And like I've seen games that can do it properly in that, like that type of game. You play like a Dragon Age Origins is a great example where it's like, it does the stuff that Baldur's Gate 3 does in terms of sort of the tactical kind of top-down CRPG style thing, but also give you like a proper mouse look.
There's a mod that lets you look up and the sky is rendered. Like that's the thing.
Yeah. Well, it has to be because like when the game does its cutscenes and stuff like that in the middle of it, it's not a pre-recorded cutscene. Like the position that you're in when you happen to trigger it will determine what you see and it'll be different. So you could have been in a position on 4 different playthroughs where you happen to be able to see the dragon because you were somewhere else or on a little hill or further away or this thing wasn't in your way or whatever. And you weren't in that particular instance. So they have to have that shit rendered, right?
It's there. They're rendering it. Like, you're processing it. You've made those graphics. They're there. Let me see them.
Yeah. And that was my frustration with Baldur's Gate 3. But it was such an amazing game that I didn't get over it, but I mostly got over it, right? So I think if I were to go back and play even the first Divinity Original Sin, I would enjoy it a lot more than I did trying to get into it before. The second version, I think if we were to like go back and play it, we would probably enjoy it almost as much as Baldur's Gate 3. There's a lot of people that really loved Baldur's Gate 3 that like that game more.
Oh, wow.
People that wouldn't even have given it the time of day, but have gone back to play it after the success and their experience with BG3. So it's on my radar of things to try. I probably got to what would be the equivalent of like the middle or end of the second act in Original Sin 2 and just stopped playing.
I do that a lot with games.
Yeah.
I get to a certain point and it becomes obvious, well, I'm going to win. I don't really need to play.
Yeah, it wasn't even that. It was just one of those things like, you know, I never felt like I was not fighting with the controls and stuff. I was enjoying the story and everything that was happening around that, but that frustration of fighting with that, and I think I got busy doing other things too at the time. I just stopped playing it, and then it was, you know, 6 months later, and it's like, well, I can't just pick up where I left off.
You need a spreadsheet.
Yeah. I think having played Baldur's Gate 3 now, all the things that really frustrated me would frustrate me a lot less, right? Because now I'm trained. I'm already mostly over it with Baldur's Gate 3, and those things are still there. They just won't frustrate me as much as they did the previous time. So anyway,
the control system is a frustration in Baldur's Gate 3. I agree. I did mostly get over it, but I would rather it was different.
The other game that I'm looking forward to, which might be a 2027 game, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being later, will be the Expanse. So a game coming out based on the Expanse show series of books. The Expanse Osiris Reborn looks interesting. Feels also Mass Effect-y in a way that really appeals to me. And it's a setting that, even though I haven't finished the books yet, really does appeal to me. So I dig it.
The earlier books were the best.
Yeah, I got bogged down in the middle of that. Shit, I can't even remember what book it is now. Is it
What was the last thing that
Wrath?
happened?
I'm in the middle of that situation where What's His Nuts is stuck on the planet that the sort of Martian Imperator guy has his like daughter on. So he's over there with the daughter. The daughter's visiting Amos
It's
in a
not
cave.
Amos.
You're
It's
right.
somebody else.
Yeah, yeah. It took me a frustratingly, embarrassingly long time to make the connection. It's like,
Me
that
too.
name, I recognize that name. An idiot.
Yeah.
Right
That
now,
of all of the books, I think that one is actually very close to the weakest.
yeah. Yeah, I think Naomi's in a shipping crate being bounced around from one place to another, and don't remember what's happening with anybody else. It's been a while since I put it down. And anyway, I'm going to get back into them. It's been long enough. I'm going to have to push through like rereading that book to get to where I left off. But yeah, but I'll do it. I want to see it through. My whole reason for rereading the books was because I wanted to experience the stuff that happened after the show ended, right? And I know there was a lot of differences between the two, and that's fine. I'm totally fine with it. It was worth rereading the books that were covered by the show because there was enough differences that not only were they just good, but it also kind of felt like a half new story. I was like, this is great. And then I hit this book and it's just fuck.
It is. It's a massive shift in what the story is actually telling you the story of.
Yeah.
And after that book, they get back to telling. It's still different. Like, it's still a different angle to come at the story from, but it's at least similar enough in tone that it feels like, okay, this is the same story about the same people.
Do we want to get into sort of an official book report tease then before we move on and talk tabletop?
Sure, because it's going to be a very teasy tease.
Oh, Bob?
That's right. When I was your age, television was called books. And this is a special book.
Don't eat books, kids.
So I decided the best time to read a book that has been on my radar for a long time would be to start reading it a week after the movie based on the book that I want to go see came out. I am, of course, talking about Project Hail Mary. By all accounts, the movie is getting a lot of positive buzz, rightfully so. I still want to go see the movie, but I decided, hey, I might as well read that book. My wife's been in the hospital for the better part of a week now. So it's like a couple hours before bed. I'm not ready to quite crash yet. I'm sort of laying there alone. I might as well read a book. And I ended up plowing through it in a couple of days. I threw the ebook at you. You haven't had a chance to start it yet. Is that correct?
I have not. I'm going to start it this weekend.
Okay. Which means that probably by Monday, you'll be ready to talk about it. So maybe we'll do 3 episodes in very short succession here.
Oh, my goodness.
The tease is we're reading it or have read it. We're going to have probably a dedicated show about it in our next episode. Without spoiling anything, my basic impressions, if you're considering reading the book, either having seen the movie or having not, and we'll get into this more next week, is I enjoyed it. I have mild criticisms. I have things that I like, and there's some things that I want to talk about after you've read the book. But if you're on the fence right now and you want to have the context to come into our next episode and that conversation about it, go ahead and read the book. It's great. You won't regret it. Same to you. Tanya actually started listening to the ebook the other night down at the hospital. I think she got sidetracked on something else, so she probably won't finish it by the time her and I go and see the movie, hopefully in the next week or so. But I think she'll be into it. I think she'll love the movie at the very least.
Yeah. I don't know if we are going to want to talk about it, and I think you should avoid it. There's a little bit of controversy about some of the author's statements about the themes of the book.
I haven't heard those. Now, I know that Andy Weir is, the way he's described himself in the past, as somebody who's fiscally conservative and socially liberal, which,
Yeah.
you know, I do know, having seen the occasional thread pop up on like Reddit, that he has participated in stuff with other people that I would have a problem with. Now, I don't know enough about the circumstances to pass any judgment. Jumping somebody else on somebody else's stream, I'm not going to probably judge a person for that without the context of, you know, the things that he's saying and you know.
I don't want to pass any judgment at all. I'm simply suggesting don't look into it.
Yeah.
Enjoy the art. Don't look into the artist.
What I would say, and you know, again, it's one of those things where, I mean, you can't believe everything you read online, but I imagine there's enough meat in that sandwich that, like, you know, there's probably some legitimacy to it. He is friends with a lot of people that I really sort of respect. And I think for those reasons alone, I'm more inclined to give it the benefit of the doubt, but it'll be one of those situations where I have to give in and sort of dig into it eventually. For now, I'm not going to do it. I don't want it to color our discussion about the book itself. I don't want it to color the conversation about the movie. I will judge those on their merits. And then, you know, if it turns out that he's super douche or whatever, then I will have to have the conversation that I've had about some of my other heroes and say, look, my enjoyment of this book and any commentary that I've had about it does not mean that I endorse the individual that wrote it. We may need to separate artist from art here.
I think every human being is complicated and no one is perfect. And I would very much like the person who has never sinned to cast the first stone. So my caution here is not about whether he's a good person or not. It was literally just, there's some stuff floating around out there. I have no idea how valid it is. Don't look into it because it will color your perception of the book. That's it.
Okay. Fair enough. Have you been reading anything else?
I have been digging into Terry Pratchett again. I started with Hatful of Sky, I think. I mean, I reread Terry Pratchett's stuff over and over and over again because I think it's brilliant commentary, and it's satire in the vein of Jonathan Swift,
Mm-hmm.
which is very much sort of political commentary, very heavily veiled and satirized. And it's, a lot of it is so applicable to today that it's surprising, because he's been dead for a few years now. And like, some of his stuff was written in the 90s, and you read stuff from the 90s and you think this is exactly the same thing that's happening today.
Mm-hmm.
So, message of hope. All of the shit that we're seeing today is just amplified by the media that we consume. It's been happening forever. Still bad. Still fight it. Don't sweat it too much.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Pratchett is one of those blind spots for me. I mean, I've read a fair bit of the Discworld stuff, but not a lot else.
Well, that's
And-
most of his stuff.
Yeah, but even the Discworld stuff, like, I didn't read all of it, and it was forever ago. I didn't touch any of the Good Omens stuff, I don't think.
Yeah, it's not as good.
Yeah. So
The
it's something I
Discworld
should
stuff
revisit.
it's neat just because it's different, and he comes at things from such an odd angle sometimes that it makes me sort of reevaluate.
Mm. All right.
Good art.
All right. Well, let's talk D&D then. You said your in-person group was now very confused. This is a comment from about a week and a half ago.
Yes.
I assume that it is based on the stuff that you did with me and the helm, and the message sort of related to
No.
that. Okay.
No. So I have been telegraphing things to both groups for a while. And there is a twist coming. I don't think that you'll be surprised by it, but I think everyone else is going to be surprised by it. My in-person group is just beginning to get a taste of that. And they're all going, "Wait, what?" And it's fun to watch. And we are now, because Cindy's playing a character in both campaigns, she's actually having to at times go, "Hang on a minute, does this character know that?" No, the other character knows that. Right. And it's a little bit, up until now, it's been reasonably easy because the information both groups have has been fairly similar. Now it's starting to diverge a little bit, and it's fun to watch how people are dealing with the idea that, hey, some of the assumptions we made might not be correct.
Well, that's good.
I can't tell you too much because, of course, spoilers, but all is not as it seems.
We were led to believe that from the very beginning.
Yes. Yeah, so there is a mystery going on that hopefully I will be able to give you enough information about without having to just put it on the table.
Nice. I think that'll be good for my character, Tavos, because right now his approach to this whole situation is I don't trust anybody.
Mm-hmm.
These fucking clowns, they're all coming at us with bullshit. You know?
Mm-hmm.
The Snowfire guy was a fucking asshole. Like, how do we know that the observers are even bad? Really? What have they done to us?
You don't know.
Just gonna take their word for it?
Yeah. It's interesting to watch Mac go about, because I told you that they found the airship, right? Which is actually a spelljammer. So they're going around and gathering things to try and repair this thing. And so they're bringing stuff back, and they've sort of recruited a crew of people to work on it, to repair it. They found someone who was a shipwright before they came here. So they're repairing the superstructure of the ship. They're they've found out how to repair stuff, and they've done a bunch of questing, a bunch of fetch quests to go and get one of these and two of those and five of those and whatever in order to repair this thing, right? And so far they've traveled around, and you guys haven't actually interacted with the communities on the surface, but all of the communities on the surface have basically spent 1,000 years fighting each other. And because of the nature of the world, right, they die, they're reborn, they might be reborn into a different shape, they go to a different community, and now they're in a different side of the war. Eventually they all figured out, okay, fighting each other is stupid. Let's all just work together and make the best life that we can. So everyone literally is just like, the money doesn't make any sense. I have something, you need it, you can have it, right? So they're sharing everything. There are 4 communities. There's a human community, an orc community, a dwarf community, and a gnome community. And literally they all just contribute to each other. We make water, we send water to everybody. We make food cake, we send food cake to everybody. We make little gewgaws to entertain you, we send those to everybody.
Mm. So capitalism bad, but racism apparently not.
It's not. They're not.
It's
They are not confined to them. It's just like sort of majority population. Like there's a mix of everyone everywhere. It's just sort of, okay, well, a group of gnomes started this community, so they're the ones who are kind of in charge of it.
Yeah, I get it. I also have a gnome friend.
Yeah, okay. All right. Anyway, that wasn't intended to be one of the themes of the thing. But they are all share and share alike, right? Nobody is trying to steal anything from anyone or take anyone. Theft is basically unknown in this society. And when they brought all of the stuff and the people are starting to put the ship together, Mac's first thing was, we should stay and watch them in case they steal the ship and sail away without us. And I'm like, how do you even arrive at that? Like, up until this point, you've been trusting and you've been like working with everybody. And then right out of the blue, you're like, oh, well, they're going to have something. They might steal it. I'm like, what? How? Human nature is so shitty. I can see exactly where he's coming from, because I have played with DMs who would do that, where it's like, you work for something, so I'm going to take it away because I need to give you a motivation to go adventuring, right?
In his defense, that part of the world that you've created is suspiciously juvenile, like intentionally, right? I don't mean that as a criticism, but the very nature of what you've done there leads even me as a player to say, no, like there has to be more going on here than what meets the eye, right? These people can't be this simple, resigned to their fate, whatever it is. The idea of the sort of commune share and share, like, it's like, yeah, but what's it really like? Like, there's just this natural resistance to something that is simple when typically it isn't, right? Like you painted a very, very simple picture. Too simple. Not because it's literally too simple, but suspiciously simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
That neighbor is quiet. A little too quiet. The guy's really nice. A little too nice. He must be hiding something. There's that sort of inherent distrust that is part of human nature, but also in the gamification of something like D&D and campaign building, we are trained to question something that seems a little bit too one-dimensional on the surface, right? This is fake. This is fake.
The whole world is fake.
Oh, it is. Absolutely. But I mean, the behavior of the people, the picture that you painted, the natural reaction for a lot of people, myself included, and I'm sure Mac, is like, okay, yeah, they've seemed cool and trusting and stuff up until this point. But now that we've got an airship, right? And it isn't even necessarily, and I can't put words in his mouth, I'm not playing in that game, but it probably isn't, we have an airship and it's something of value. It's probably, we have an airship and it might be our ticket out of here.
Yes.
And We don't want them to steal it and leave without us, or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah, no, and that was largely his take on it was we don't want them to take it and take off and leave us behind. There is very much that tendency for D&D players that if you describe something, they're immediately like, "Oh, that must be important. We have to focus on that." Right? Never mind the castle in the background and the monsters that are, dancing on the battlements. You described a squirrel in the tree. It must be a shapeshifted druid or something. So we're going to spend 2 hours trying to investigate this squirrel.
Who do you work for?
Who does number 2 work for?
This is a squirrel in the tree. Insight check.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's furry. He's got a little tail. He kind of looks at you with beady eyes. Insight.
Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, man.
Yeah. That's something that I had to train my players very, very quickly to approach the game and interacting with the world and its people, not in D&D mechanics, right? Don't tell me you want to do an insight check. Tell me what it is that you're looking for or you want to achieve, and I'll use the insight roll to adjudicate that.
Yes.
You don't walk around town. Insight, intimidation, persuasion.
Yeah.
I want to persuade that person. I don't know. What do you want to persuade? I don't know. I just want him to be friends with me.
Then be friendly
Go up
with
and
them.
talk to him. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the problem too, is that I've had to change my style a little bit because I have discovered that I'm not a very good actor. So I sometimes have to tell people, and I've started to do this, what I'm trying to convey is, and then say the things that I want to say and tell people this is what I'm trying to actually convey with the way they're behaving.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you take it like that. Maybe you don't. Maybe you say, I don't trust that, and I'd like to do an insight check. But at the same time, I'm not going to trust my acting ability to tell you what I think I want to tell you.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense?
No, it does. Absolutely does.
Because even in my real life, my wife and I have that conversation a lot where she says, you sound an awful lot like this. And I'm like, I'm not trying to convey that at all.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. I mean, that's a daily occurrence with, my wife. I think it's just sort of a symptom of being married in general.
At least.
You're mad.
It's a symptom of being
What
human.
are you mad at? I'm not mad. I'm not even remotely angry. You look mad. You sound mad. I'm not mad. I guess I just have resting asshole face. I don't know. But sometimes I'm hard to read, and that comes out being a DM.
I have resting angry voice.
Yeah.
Apparent. I know that when I talk to people that I am condescending. I have started, especially with there's some young women on the team that I work with. And I have started because I do a lot of like technical support and sort of mentoring instruction type stuff because I'm old now. And I start off almost every conversation with, I'm going to have to mansplain this because it's literally the only way I know how to do this. So please don't take offense. It's not about you not knowing. It's about me not knowing how to explain it any other way.
That's fair. And probably a good approach.
Yeah, because that's what it sounds like. Like I sound condescending. That's just my natural way of talking. It's not intentional. It's just how it sounds.
And you're different in person than you are in text. Your text messages have become almost a work of art now. There's two ways you go. One where it's like, oh, this sounds like he's being a passive aggressive dick. He's not. But, it sounds like you're either pissed off about something and complaining, or you're wanting something, which is neither the case. You're being efficient with your words because it's text, right? Like that's what it's supposed to be. The other one is sometimes you just say things and it's like, I know what all of these words mean individually. But when I put them together, like sometimes it's a reference that maybe I just don't get, but often it is just you being random. And
to an extent, I have been in my personal life, and I'm not going to share any of it, writing poetry in order to try and express frustrations with gestures broadly at everything.
Yeah.
Because I have come to understand that all of the people in my life just don't want to hear me talk about it anymore. And I get it. Like, everybody's got to protect themselves from this shit. So I do it like that. I mean, I would love to do like some kind of angry gangster rap, but I don't have the talent. So I write poetry. And some of that has started coming out in the way that I write down words. So some of it is that.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of it is just, I don't know. Maybe my brain is not abstract enough to get you anymore, but it's like, this is English, right? I mean, they're English words. Maybe if I stand on my head.
Yeah, some of it is intended to be obtuse and obfuscated in such
Yeah,
a way that
I get that. And I see more of that now than would have been typical in the, 25 years or however long we've known each other. It's just sometimes
about 25 years.
Yeah, more like if I sort of look at it in messages per week, where I look at it and then my head starts doing this. For those, obviously all of you that can't see, I was just doing like the Stewie Griffin, kind of rotate my head sideways until it's almost upside down.
Yeah, like, what the fuck is that? Most of the time when I send you messages that you do that, I'm literally just trying to make you laugh.
Yeah, no, I get it. And it's funny, but those are the two flavors of messages, unless we're generally talking about something specific that I just kind of get sometimes completely out of the blue, right? Just like Thursday afternoon, I haven't talked to you in 4 days. Random sentence. What the fuck does this mean?
You need to change your Discord name to Rubber Duck in those situations. I'm just like, I need to tell somebody this thing.
All right. So back on topic, good tangent. I did have a D&D thing that I wanted to talk about. And this isn't a serious conversation. I'm going to sort of frame it with a serious theme. Not serious, but like serious in the context of D&D. But really, it's a discussion about hope. I've found myself recently struggling as a primarily online only dungeon master. I still enjoy the experience of playing the games, but I find myself less and less enjoying everything around it, from the preparation and even the world building and stuff like that. Like, it isn't that it's unenjoyable. I just feel that I don't have like the full vehicle to express the kind of creativity and stuff that I want to express. And we've talked about a little bit in the past online games versus playing in person and how they're different kind of around the table. I kind of want to focus on how they're different before and after the game, like as a dungeon master, because you're doing both now. And you've talked about how the games themselves are different, but I'm curious. I'm flirting with the idea of running some in-person games. We've kind of talked about that. We currently have my sister-in-law and her niece staying with us. They've been here for it'll be about a year by the time they're looking like they're getting their own places. And the niece is finishing school. She's gonna either be going off to a job or maybe military or something like that. And presumably the sister-in-law is going to be getting her own place. So what that's going to do is free up this big dining room that we had, where the intention was to always turn it into kind of like a hybrid dining room, gaming room, where I would have a big table that people could come in, sit around, play D&D, board games, that kind of stuff. Probably gaming room first, dining room second. So what I'm not going to do is turn it into that style of gaming room where it's like, it's a table, but the legs are like dragons and, that sort of super gamery kind of thing. I don't even like that aesthetic. I like sort of a clean kind of thing. So I'm not going to go for that vibe. I'm probably not going to have, like swords and skulls hanging on the walls and all of that. Like, it's going to look like a functional room that everybody else can sort of walk into. But part of what I'm excited about is the idea of on demand being able to transform it into more of a gaming room, play a game where I can sort of flex creativity in other ways in my prep, whether it's building sort of set pieces and battle maps and getting into that crafting kind of thing. Even the idea of creating props. You know, one of the things that I joked about is if I get you guys sort of involved in coming here seasonally or a couple times a year for a weekend kind of game, like I could D&D themed beer and bread and, you know, shit like that. That gives me a chance to explore the things around the game and sort of inject creativity into that. So let me back up, stop talking about myself, and ask you some questions now that you are sort of into your second year of playing a regular ish home game. Have you engaged? I know you were dabbling with the sort of terrain system that you were doing a lot of 3D printing around, sort of a snap together modular thing. Have you evolved that idea anymore? Have you brought any sort of other physical creativity to your table? And what have you sort of done to express yourself more beyond the specific mechanics of playing D&D?
Okay, so I have been thinking about this, and I have, similar to the things that you've talked about, I do want to build a gaming table. I think that my gaming table is likely going to be an insert that I put on top of my existing dining room table.
Mhm.
Which raise it up a couple of inches or something, and then put like an inside. I don't know. Anyway, some stuff involving that. Cindy bought a short throw projector, which I experimented with a couple of times. It turns out that remember the gaming laptop that I brought to the last LAN party we had, which is like more than 10 years old now, struggles to run Foundry. So I was using the short throw projector to try and project and do sort of battle maps that way. And also I wanted to do that so that I could show people pictures like this is what this looks like, and not print it out in black and white on 8.5 by 11, that kind of a thing. I think that I'm probably going to evolve that into, I have made a whiteboard with, I got Cindy to put grid lines on it because I'm not very neat at doing that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I hope that at some point I can figure out how to use the projector to project an image on that and use that as like the battle mat, so that we can have like animated maps with like snow and stuff. And I can just literally play a video or an animated GIF or whatever. I have been doing a bunch of 3D design for that interlocking terrain system. I originally was trying to do something really simple where it was almost like map tiles, where it's just tiles to give me space and walls and stuff so that I could make boundaries. And I have since decided, you know what? No, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to print off like flagstone tiles. I'm going to start with like one type of thing so that it's just dungeons. So I got flagstone tiles, and I have like cut stone walls, fireplaces, doors, that stairs up, stairs down, trapdoors, that kind of thing, windows. And eventually sort of I want to add to that so that, okay, well, these are wooden floors in this particular place. Here's a stone door, here's a wooden door, here's various different types of things. I want to get into doing more creative, more artistic type, as you describe them, set pieces where I build up the castle, right? And certain portions of it you can see and certain portions of it you can't. And as we move into this new area, okay, well, we sort of move this model off to the side, and I bring out like another tray that has the next section on it. And really originally I wanted to do that kind of thing for exploration, and I have discovered that doesn't work real well.
Mm-hmm.
So the last little bit of thing that I've done is I found a new tool called Map Print or something. I'll send you a link. It's an interesting thing. You can take any image, dump it in here, adjust the grid size, and it will print it out. Like it will tile it over multiple sheets, and you can take it and switch it to black and white and change the contrast back and forth so that you can actually see what's going on. And I thought, hey, this will be useful and interesting. I have also previously printed things out sort of in large format and then cut it out and taped it together. so that so that when you go into the next room, I pull out the next room and lay it on the table. That doesn't work well, at least not for me. So I wouldn't recommend trying it. It was interesting. It was worth trying. I think it was a failure, and I have now learned something. And that is, if you're going to do that, do it on a small scale so that you literally just hand out the next room and say, this goes there, you're in the next room, right?
Mhm.
And then if it's a battle thing, then you pull out like a full scale something that you can actually move tokens around on. But I am 100% on board with the idea of even just crafting rough terrain type things, especially if you can have a couple of like base model things where you go, okay, so here's my base model grass thing, and there's a couple of trees, and there's some rocks here, and here are the wolves that are attacking you or whatever. And you go where you are, and there's a grid system, so you can, even if you don't have a grid system, so you can say, okay, this is approximately 30 feet or whatever. Something to give the players to visualize the times when you need to visualize where is everyone. But yeah, the whole crafting sort of expression. I would love to do like handouts of things where it's I have commissioned Cindy to actually make me some potion bottles so that I can put like there's some dice in it and put a cork on it, and I can hand it and say, you find a healing potion, here it is. And when you want to use it, you take the cork off, roll the dice, put the cork back in it, and give up the bottle.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is cool. And, I mean, it's not for everybody.
No.
I'm looking for excuses to use my hands a little bit more and just make physical things, tactile things. I'm enjoying tactile stuff more than I ever have in my life. I used to be the digital guy, the tech guy, and I still am, but I'm developing just a newfound appreciation for tangible things. I'd gone down the rabbit hole in the past of like, okay, I'm going to have a gaming table and it'll be one of those vaulted tables, but I'm going to also have like a TV that I can build into it that I can use as like a digital battle mat. And, I almost want to not do it because I'm recreating sort of the convenience of some of
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that I do online. If I do that, it's just going to sort of funnel me down the same practices of look for a battle map online that's kind of like what I want, do some shit like that. And so I did a complete 180. And one of the, like, honestly, the most fun I've had outside of playing the game itself, like just in like the prep world and stuff like that, was the afternoon that I spent cutting up like an old TV box to make the shit that I used to run that one shot of the Cobalt one shot that we did. Not the last time that we were there, but the time before that we came up and played some
Yes.
games where I had that big like 3-layered lazy Susan kind of thing, and then I just had a mat that had some scatter train pillars on it, sitting there with fucking styrofoam containers that were from takeout and gluing them together with literally like glue sticks and throwing dollar store craft paint on it. And it was like, this is fucking awesome.
It is. It's fun. That was my birthday party
Yeah. Yeah. So that would have been what, 2 years ago now, I guess.
2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And like that's the stuff that I want to explore a little bit more. Now I do have to do a shout out. I've stumbled across, it's not a new channel, but it's new to me, called TBDND. I don't They don't know what the TB stands for. They said don't ask, but it is this group that does have one of those gaming rooms where it's like the swords and the skulls and shit on the wall. And I don't want that. They go all out to the point where they have like dry ice smoke generators and stuff in the tables, and it's like doing crazy shit. They've been recording their sessions. They haven't been putting them online yet. And already the production value of what they're doing is better than most online games. It's like, this is fucking crazy. But one of the things that he's doing that I kind of like is that he's sort of doing a hybrid approach. They have the TV, big screens built into the table, but instead of using it as the battle map, he's leaning on the animated battle map kind of stuff where it's like, okay, I've got like roiling sea, waves and stuff like that happening on it. And then he's placing stuff that he's crafted, like islands and stuff, on top of it that are a little bit more static, but it sort of has all the tactile benefits of just handcrafting stuff with some of the dynamic visual flair that you get out of animated stuff without sort of the trade-offs and the crutches that you get with using just purely digital battle maps. So
I really like the idea of having the TV embedded in the table for one of like a couple of dozen backgrounds. Like, okay, so this castle is actually on a wintry mountain. So you have your background that is snow and ice and a mountainside and like blizzardy snow blowing. And then on top of that, you place the actual physical structure that you want to play with. I really like the idea too, and I hope that I can do this with the thing that I'm developing, where you can go, okay, so you walk into the castle and here's the first floor, right? And people go, oh, there's stairs up here. You go up the stairs and you literally pull out like another level and sit it on top.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to do that. Even if it was like room by room, you put the thing on top.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what in the perfect version of me building out this gaming room and running in-person games, that's the kind of stuff that I want to do. You know? Or, you know, the kind of things you couldn't do it for a weekly game.
No.
This would be the kind of thing where if you're running a game because I just don't have the time. I mean, you, the listener, might be able to do all of this shit for a weekly game, but I certainly wouldn't have the bandwidth to do it.
I mean, Matt Mercer does it, but it's his job.
Yeah, and he also has a fairly large staff to do a lot of stuff now. And but no, like the idea of like, oh, I'm going to make this cool puzzle, right? And I don't do a lot of puzzles, and sometimes when I do it, it doesn't always go well. But the idea of creating a puzzle where then I can also reach into the next room or under, the table or whatever, and then pull out, here's the physical puzzle, and slap it down on the table. It goes beyond set pieces. Then it's more props, right? Kind of like the potion bottle thing, where it's just like, I felt like creating something, putting it in my game gives me an excuse to do it. And it sort of augments and enhances both.
Handouts are awesome.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, the technical stuff, like the digital battle maps, the TV stuff, I've been watching some channels where they're using you can buy those kits. They're like an infrared sort of thing that you put on like the front of any TV that you can use to sort of effectively turn it into a touch screen. And they're trying to find the right technology mix to do it so that you can have a digital battle map, but put physical minis on there and then have it interact with something like Foundry or something like that, so that, they can kind of move around and do their thing. And it's cool. It's interesting to look at, but nobody's pulled it off in a way that I'm looking at and saying, yes, if I can recreate that, that'll work great at my table. And again, it's just one of those things where that's just going to give me an opportunity to continue doing things the way I do now. And I want to find more fulfillment than that.
I would like to say this is not a parting gift or a paid sponsorship, but if you're looking for digital battle maps, Che Ipeku, I think, is fantastic. Like, deserve your support. They do really great work. There's a bunch of stuff available there for free as well, which is also completely awesome. I steal and use their stuff all the time. And if any of them happen to be listening and you want to sponsor us, listen, we're cheap. Send us a beer.
Yeah, I've bought stuff from them. I use a lot of Tom Cardos' stuff just because it's a little bit more generic. And I was subscribed on Patreon for a little while. And it was like, once you're on Patreon, you get access to all the variants, basically, of all the stuff that he does. So a lot of the stuff that I run in my day-to-day games online are his stuff. There's another one, Eightfold Paper, that I used a lot of their stuff as well. Subscribed to the Patreon for a while. I've never done the Chain Piku's Patreon, but I have actually bought maps like a la carte from them. Very, very good. Their one map in particular, the one that's I think I've used it in games like that I did for you, maybe a one shot, and I've used it, I think, with my other groups that I've played a couple of times now. It's a big sort of like illithid skull. It's basically an elder brain that has sort of died, but it's like the brain pool of this big illithid skull and sort of channels of water and stuff all around it. I turned it into like a weird sex thing with my
Oh,
one party that was
yes.
kind of hilarious.
Yep. That was a one shot. I was there.
Oh
It
no,
was very weird.
this wasn't with you, but yeah, it
Oh,
was sort of
no.
in that vein of I was recreating the experience of the sex scene from Demolition Man movie, where it was just like a VR kind of thing, right? If you remember Demolition Man, like they don't touch, they don't exchange
Oh,
bodily fluids
right.
because all of that. So Sandra Bullock and Stallone, she's like, "Do you want to have sex?" And he's just like, "Yeah, I'm into it." I just woke up and I was married 5 days ago from my perspective, but sure, let's fuck. And
Here's a
then
helmet.
yeah, she gives him a towel and then pulls on this like VR type shit before VR was super, and it's just like these weird erotic flashes of images and stuff like that. Very, very cheesy. That's kind of what I did with that map, where like once they get into the water, they start forming these weird psychic connections with everybody else in the party that is because it's mind flare juice, right? Like it's elder brain juice. There's tadpoles and all kinds of shit going on there. It sounds bad when I say it out loud. I don't have, or my players don't like. We don't intentionally do weird. No, I got to rephrase that. I try not to touch on sexual topics too much, right? But sometimes I'll have like gag NPC characters or something like that, and the party will kind of direct it in a certain way where the next logical step will be to go on a side quest for him, and all of a sudden you find out it's weird illithid shit, tentacles and stuff. Anyway, my players are cool with it and they drive the bus on a lot of that shit, so I just play along. I don't force my players into uncomfortable sex stuff.
This just in. Shane runs 100% hentai D&D.
All right, you got me there. There are a lot of tentacles in my games. There's no denying that.
I have actually, it's funny. I avoid a lot of that sort of thing specifically because Cindy has a phobia about giant squid.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid more often than not. Like if I throw something in, it's literally, okay, this is supposed to be horrifying. But yeah, there's an awful lot of, if you go through the monster manual, there's an awful lot of stuff in there that you think this is just wrong and bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, listen, you got between Geiger influences and basically anything that's sort of associated with like Lovecraftian shit. Like that's the foundation for so much of what we think of in that sort of like cosmic horror kind of vein, right? So listen, you got to be down with the tents, man.
Also, you got to steal what works, and that's stuff that people find horrifying and horrific. It's if you need something to be evil, give it tentacles. It's probably evil.
Yeah. And if you've got really, really good players, they might find it fun instead.
Yeah. Evil can be fun as long as it's in theory and far away.
What I would say, you sort of getting back to my weird confession about the content of my sessions occasionally, when you touch on themes like that, keep it funny and abstract. Like we've never ever ever had what I would describe as like a sexual or romantic encounter in any of the games that I've ever run. There's been a few incidences where players have chosen to do stuff where, we cut to off screen, something happens and we're back, right?
Yes. Because otherwise it's just friggin' awkward.
Yeah.
There's a comic that I remember seeing where like they were sort of doing the tavern maid is the thing and the fighter is doing this, and then cut to no, it's just you and your buddy flirting at the table.
Yeah.
Like it's just awkward.
Yeah, so what I've found, and again, you have to have the right players for it, is there's this sort of middle ground combination of something where you can create something that is not awkward for the players, but is awkward for their characters in an amusing and funny way. And if you can find that line, which is
Yes.
typically what I aim for, then everybody's having a good time.
If everybody's laughing in an honest and open way,
Yeah.
it's all good.
But you have to do it in such a way where, you create an invitation for your players to explore something, right? And they can choose whether they want to, don't want to, or whatever. You're not foisting something upon them, but it goes like, it's your typical sort of D&D thing, just different types of content. You just throw a hook out there. If they bite on it, they start driving the bus. And then you as a DM just kind of react and follow along to wherever they're going with it. That's
Yeah.
how certain sessions in some of the games that I've played have basically just turned from hanging out at a typical tavern kind of thing that was their base of operations to one of them starting like turning it into a burlesque kind of thing, right? Like it's basically D&D Tropicana and stuff like that. And sometimes you can do some interesting role playing kind of around that explores some interesting themes, but yeah, not overt, not weird, and never ever put your players into awkward situations
Without
unless,
giving them an out.
yeah, or I would even go so far as to say give them an in and only explore further if they take it, right?
Yes. Yeah. You
Like,
put the breadcrumbs out, and if they follow the trail, great.
yeah, like,
If they buy in, it's good.
have an NPC say some weird shit. And if they decide this is the conversation that I want to explore, okay, put them in a weird sort of psychic mind flayer layer. And when one of them gets a little bit wet in the mind flayer juice, give them a couple of flashes of weird imagery and see if they run with it.
Yeah. Or if they jump out.
If you handle it with respect, often they will jump in with both feet and you'll have a hilarious time. It isn't about the content itself or the themes you're exploring. It is that it is so counter to what most normal D&D is that it tends to stick out. It lasts in the memories, right? And when you think back about the interesting sessions that you've had, often those ones where you explore weird shit tend to be the ones that
They stick out. You can't do them every time. It has to be.
No. Yeah.
It has to be like hot sauce. Sometimes it's delicious. You don't put it on your cereal.
Yeah. You never plan to have your players cramming an immovable rod in a giant demon's ass?
That was a brilliant move. That was so good. Rules as written, it probably shouldn't have worked, but it was just too cool to not do.
Yeah. And how can you then not describe the gaping hole where the poor thing's ass used to be?
It was a gaping hole. Yep.
And we've come full circle, folks. I think it's just about time to wrap up the session.
Just about.
Oh. Any D&D stuff you want to talk about? Any more around the tabletop and crafting before we move on to parting gifts?
I don't think so. I'm looking forward to enjoying more of it. And that's pretty much it.
And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Anybody want a peanut?
So I have a parting gift that I have wanted to share now for a while. And I sort of teased it last week. There is a YouTube contributor named Dr. Hilary Agro who I have been, she does a few long form things. She does quite a bit of short form stuff. She is a doctor of anthropology. And she left the academic sphere because she actually wants to educate people without the barrier of the economic strife that people have to go to in order to enter higher education. She's also highly entertaining. I got into her by watching a video where she was dressed as a pirate. And I literally clicked on the video because she was dressed as a pirate. And I thought, what the heck is this? And then I listened to what she said. And she's basically a modern day hippie, kind of. She's got fantastic messaging. It's so refreshing because she presents information in a way that is really accessible to everybody. But at the same time, there's an awful lot of very deep sort of topics, like a lot of things that are very nuanced and full of information without being like lectury. Honestly, if she was still in academia, she's the kind of professor that I would want to have because she gives you the information that you need to have in a way that you can actually absorb it. And I'm the kind of person who doesn't actually absorb information that's given to me verbally very well. But when she's talking, I'm like, all right, everything else is on hold because I want to listen. Like, this is good stuff to listen to. And it's very, even in the face of, hey, the world is on fire, everything is bad news. Yes, you're being bombarded with bad news. Here's something that you personally can constructively do about this. And it's generally stuff that is very personally achievable. Right. She ends every one of her videos with a little challenge. And every single one of her challenges are like, wow, that is a challenge, but it is absolutely achievable. So I highly recommend you check her out. She does, like I say, a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube. She also has a website where her doctoral thesis is available if you join her Patreon. I have no idea if you're interested in reading it or not. She does a summary video of it that is highly worth a watch. She also talks about psychedelics a bunch and has a very interesting take on how all of that works. Anyway, so check it out.
Is there like a particular focus in terms of like subject matter and themes, or is it sort of broad topics?
Well, she's an anthropologist, so she talks about people, and her doctoral thesis was on the use of psychedelics in like plant medicine, right? And how I can't even explain it. Like, it's just any way that I try and explain it is going to make it sound weird and hokey. You really need to go and listen to her talk about it. She's very much anti-capitalist, which is one of the things that I enjoy about her, but she's anti-capitalist in a very sensible way, right? Like, not overthrow the system. Yes, we all exist in the system. Here are things that we can do to sort of begin to counter that and figure out how do we move on from here. That's largely the theme that I find appealing is, yes, we all exist in this system. Yes, capitalism is horrible and it's sucking our souls away. But at the same time, we are all still human beings. Let's figure out how to make life livable from where we are and start to improve.
Nice. Dr. Hilary Agro. I have not seen any of her stuff. I'll have to check her out.
She is definitely worth a watch. Some of the things that she says, some of the topics that she talks about, no matter who you are, will make you angry. Listen anyway.
It's been good talking to you, man.
Yeah, you too.
I will try to talk about my ass less next time.
Well, it really depends on whether Project Hail Mary talks a lot about butt stuff or not.
Ooh, page 3?
Oh, okay. Well, there might be some butt stuff next week too then.
Very mild.
Not very deep?
Oh no, they're butt tubes. They're deep.
I get the thrust of the conversation.